So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology. The iPhone XR is still a great phone in 2022. Let me give you a quick refresh of the specs if you're not aware of what this has. It has a 6.1 inch 1792 by 828 Retina display. This is the liquid Retina variety, aka an LCD display that also doesn't come in at above, not even 1080p, 326 ppi, so kind of similar to old school iPhone. We have the old school notch here because we have the newer 13 notch now. 12 megapixel single camera on the rear, capable of 4K 60 video, and this does have an Apple A12 Bionic chipset inside of it. In addition to that, it does have 3 gigabytes of RAM and will run the latest version of iOS 16. It also does house itself a 2942 milliamp hour battery in here, so it's a pretty sizable battery, nothing like a 5000, 4000, but still nonetheless pretty good. So overall, those are the key specifications. Now, the reason I'm creating this video is because what you can snag an iPhone XR at is record low prices now, especially if you look on eBay or other relevant sites or similar sites. You might even find stuff cheaper than this. We're looking at like 250 to 260 on the high end, 300, but that's like the max out. And for all the iPhone you're getting now, I remember having to pay, you know, 300 or whatever to get an older 5S with 1 gig of RAM. So you're getting a lot better of a phone now if you decide to pick this up on a budget. So why is this one of the best budget phones you can buy in 2022? Allow me to continue to explain. Okay guys, so let me show you a phone from the Android side that has a lot of better things than the iPhone XR, including a bigger, better display, OLED, and also has more cameras. It's the Galaxy A53. A cheaper feeling body overall than the iPhone XR for sure. This has glass, it does have wireless charging. This also has, you know, yourself a metal design on the side. The A53 is pushed quite a bit by the media as one of the best budget phones you can buy. I disagree, because here's why. The iPhone XR might be one of the great budget phone buys right now. It's the performance and iOS, the ecosystem right here. There's a dime a dozen, there's a ton of Android phones on the market, and the A53 is just another one in that arena. It's still a really good option if you guys want to save some cash. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that the XR is the better phone overall for everybody. It doesn't even have 5G like the A53, but I'm just saying that this phone pretty much does hold its own, I think, even now against a phone like this. Even though this has multiple cameras, this has a really good rear camera and arguably the better overall video focus and performance. So I'm not saying that this is more comparable. The iPhone 11 is probably even worse than the A53 in some ways, but I'm just saying this phone has held the test of time. And I think this phone being, you know, twice the price, and still certain areas of the XR like the performance feeling smoother and things like that, even though it doesn't have a 120 hertz, then this phone right here proves to me that the XR at $200 something is a really good deal. In addition, you could spend $200 more and get the newer SE, but look what you have to go with. You have to go with this older than the iPhone XR design right here, and that's what you're going to end up with. Not that it's a bad phone, it's 5G, it's way faster than the iPhone XR, but I'm just trying to drive the point home that this is a good option if you're trying to get an iPhone at around 200, 240 bucks. It's not a bad deal. All right, when talking about the body and the build, is it still relevant? Is it still worth something like 200 bucks if you're looking for this? And the answer is yes. Let me explain why. Look at this iPhone 13 right here. Now, yes, it does have the dual camera setup. This has a single, but it still features that same glass back. On the edges, they squared them off, but guess what? It's still aluminum. Yes, the iPhone 13 definitely more industrial, definitely newer, more compact, more sleek, all that good stuff. iPhone XR arguably more ergonomic to hold in the hand, and in iPhone land, this design is a little bit dated at this point, but that's only because Apple brought a new phone out. If you take a look at a Samsung Galaxy S22, a current beast, I love this phone as well, you'll see it's got more of the shape of the iPhone XR. So in terms of design language overall, the iPhone XR definitely doesn't look super old. It's still a modern looking phone, and you can get it in blue, coral, yellow, multiple colors here, red, white, black. You got multiple colors on the iPhone XR. So it's not really that dated feeling, even though it came out 4 years ago. So when it comes to display, at $200 versus an $800 iPhone 13, some of the things you'll have to sacrifice is a dimmer display. Doesn't get quite as bright. You can see it's overexposing on the 13. Same size though, it's a same size panel. You do get yourself, let me lower that down now. You do get yourself a bigger notch and thicker, chunkier bezels than a current iPhone 13 versus this iPhone XR. But overall, for the day-to-day usage, while this is, not even over 1080p, it still from a distance looks fine. I actually like the color accuracy. It kind of reminds me of, say, like an iPad 10.2 inch kind of display. LCD, not the highest end, but not bad. You can still function and get by day to day with it. So overall, viewing angles aren't as good. It will wash out a little bit more. It doesn't have as deep of blacks, but the average person is not going to care. So for $200, I still love what I'm getting here in 2022 if I bought this used, and what I would get from something like a 5S years ago at $200 used, where it was a much smaller display and had those thick chunky bezels on the top and bottom. I just think the budget options now are way better than they were like just 4 or 5 years ago. All right guys, so discussing software, I'm actually running a newer version of iOS on the iPhone XR, 16 versus 15 on my iPhone 13, also capable of upgrading to 16. And I already covered it. How does it run? You could take a look at that video, link down below in the description. Overall, I just gotta say, man, the software is fine. It actually feels like I'm using any current iPhone. There's nothing that feels old about it. We don't have to go on and on. It's got a couple more years left of updates as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes a little further. So iPhone XR, very up to date with software. Nothing really feels different about using this than an iPhone 13, which is awesome. And when it comes to performance, I'm not gonna go ahead and do a whole app test here. Check out my how does it run on 16. That's a great video to show you the performance. It actually surprised me. The actual results of my Geekbench scores were actually higher in my history than phones on iOS 15. Overall, long story short, the XR looks promising on iOS 16, which means that at this money, you're getting the power of iOS, the ecosystem for $200. I mean, how could you go wrong at this price these days? Any color you really want. What a deal. I mean, if you're just looking for a secondhand iPhone, you want to try iOS, this is a great little deal right here on the iPhone XR. You can see butter smooth, no real issues. I don't care that it doesn't have 120 Hz. It is a smooth, good performer. Let's talk battery life on this phone. Now here's the problem with these. You have to look to make sure the capacities aren't that low. I would recommend, if you're looking for a used iPhone XR, nothing below like 90, 92. You don't want it super low, and you don't want it in the 80s. Let's just put it that way. Then the battery will take a hit. My capacity is at 96, and I could tell you this phone can still easily make it a day. So the XR, even on 16, can make it a day. It still drains a lot faster than iOS 15, but that's because it's a beta. On 15, this phone performs fine. I mean, it's not blowing me away like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, but through medium to getting into that heavy use category, I was still able to make it through a whole day on the iPhone XR, even here in 2022. So that's saying quite a bit about this phone. If you're looking for a decent battery life, this is going to give it to you. Remember, this doesn't run 5G or a super high resolution display. Plus, if you throw on low power mode, unlike the iPhone 13 Pro where it'll tweak it down to 60 Hz from a 120 Hz display, this only has 60 Hz. So low power mode doesn't affect performance really at all. In my experience, it pretty much runs the same, and you get the benefit of longer lasting battery with that mode on. So the iPhone XR, pretty solid in the battery life, not a big issue. And at this money, I just have to mention this again, you would get at this money a couple years ago a used iPhone 6 5S with overheating backs and crappy battery life. Now you can get an iPhone XR at this same used price point with decent battery life, good performance, big display, nice camera. Like, this is a good little deal right here. All right, so let's discuss the camera. Again, just like I said with my iPhone, SE video, it's the front facing camera that really suffers, but this rear one is not bad. Again, no dedicated night modes, no ultra wide, and again, you're not going to get those super high crispy HDR videos you're going to find on the newer iPhones, but they're still good enough. I mean, those are just add-ons. I feel like the 4K 60 on here is plenty enough to take a really sharp YouTube video and just kind of do social media videos or just family videos of any sort. Any type of usage you want to do a video, it's still solid. Look at that focus, man. It just nails it every time. No issues, easy. Really good camera setup on here. It's a single, simple to use lens, no fuss, nothing complex about it. Again, that front facing camera suffers a bit, not super happy with it, but it's also at 200 bucks. It's not bad. It's a pretty good selfie. I wouldn't mind throwing these pictures on social media either. And the video on the front, not bad either. It can do HD 60, unlike the SE of 2022, can only do HD 30. Weird. iPhone XR has a better front-facing video camera. This phone is not bad in the camera. I would talk about the audio, but it's 6 o'clock in the morning here, so I'm not gonna wake up the neighbors. You know, the thing gets pretty loud though. You know, this thing right here does have audio on the bottom and comes out the top as well. And look at those precisely cut holes. This looks really premium still even now. So definitely audio is fine. Reception and phone call quality, not the greatest in the world on the XR. You're not getting 5G, you're not getting the best signal strength, but I found that the XR still does well enough for mobile day-to-day usage. I have knocked it before, and Samsung had better phones at this time, but the newer iPhones upgraded it. This is one area you will take a little bit of a hit, but again, if you're in an urban area, this is not going to matter too much. The iPhone XR, is it the best budget iPhone steal right now at 200 something bucks on the secondhand market? And my answer to that question is depends. If that's what you're looking for, it might just be. Because I mean, I could think of a dozen Android phones you could buy at this price point, and some of them do have compelling specs, but they can't run the latest Apple software, and that is key right there. They cannot run iOS 16. This allows you to enter into the Mac world, into the Apple Watch, into the Apple ecosystem. If that's something you want to try out, this is a steal of a deal. You'll have to deal with no 5G on this phone, and if you want to spend just a little bit more, you can also consider the iPhone 11 as an even better buy right now. Used, it's going to be much cheaper than what Apple's selling for right now. So that's it for the iPhone XR. It's definitely still great here in 2022. Let me know your thoughts on it. Is it time to retire? Are you done hearing from me about the XR? Or do you have one? Are you planning on buying one as trying out an iPhone? Let me know down below in the comments. Thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Nick here. Be sure to be well, and peace.